there comes a time in everyone's life when he or she has to take up the challenge. The challenge that many have attempted and few have succeeded. Now, Christopher Nolan has taken the challenge and has completed a trilogy with the sequel, not that we deserve, but the one that we need. Hello, people of the internet, this is Kaiju Noir here with my review for The Dark Knight Rises. To make a third installment after creating two spectacular films, and have it be just as great as them, is certainly no small feat. Many times, filmmakers would try to create a threequel, only to have it fail to live up to the audience's expectations. This is certainly the case with superhero movies, such as Superman 3, Batman Forever, X-Men The Last Stand, and Spider-Man 3. However, this is not the case with The Dark Knight Rises, a film that I feel is not only just as great as Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, but works as a great capper to this interpretation of Batman. This is really saying something, as Batman is one of those characters who are so much more larger than life that the idea to make a definitive ending to his story is actually quite scary. As much as I, and more than likely Warner Brothers, would like to see this Batman continue on to fight more supervillains, though for different reasons, Nolan wanted to tell a complete story, rather than keep going on and on until the movies became stale and no one would care about Batman anymore, and I completely respect that. The story to The Dark Knight Rises takes place 8 years after The Dark Knight ended. There is very little crime on the streets of Gotham City, prisoners can no longer be paroled, the Batman has gone missing after taking the blame for the death of Harvey Dent, and Bruce Wayne is living as a shut-in with no life. All of this changes when Bane, a former member of the League of Shadows from Batman Begins, wants to resume Ra's al Ghul's plan to destroy both Batman and Gotham City. The story starts off pretty slow and standard for a Nolan Batman movie, but once it hits the fan, it becomes an intense, heart-pounding epic. I really like how the Nolan films have used well-known stories from the comics. Batman Begins was based off of Year One, The Dark Knight was based off of The Long Halloween, and here, the plot is based mostly off of Nightfall, with hints of No Man's Land and The Dark Knight Returns. I also really like how this film strongly ties in with the last two, making the story come full circle and have all three movies really feel like a complete story, rather than three separate tales. I felt that everyone here brought their A-game. Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman, and Gary Oldman all return as their respective characters, thank God. And the newcomers are just as awesome. Yes, Batman still has that irritating voice that everyone, including myself, has made fun of, though at this point I have already gotten used to it and it didn't bother me as much. Although to tell you the truth, I think the filmmakers seem to know this, and had one scene where they actually repeated Batman's flip-out in the Joker interrogation scene from The Dark Knight. Tom Hardy's portrayal of Bane is very brutal, and provides the film with a villain that can match Batman both in brawn and brains. Eat that, Batman and Robin's Bane! While he is not as memorable as the Joker, I definitely had fun watching him on screen. And before I forget, the fight scenes between him and Batman are perhaps the best choreographed and shot fights in the history of Batman movies. Well, except for this. I do have to complain about his voice though, as I felt that it sounded unnaturally loud, unless he had a microphone built into his mask, which I highly doubt. Plus, I couldn't understand 1/5 of what he was saying at most. Anne Hathaway nails it as Catwoman, as she was able to balance beauty, grace, and intelligence while keeping that femme fatale demeanor that has made the character so popular over the years. I would even say that she made a better Catwoman than Michelle Pfeiffer, and makes Halle Berry's version a complete joke. My favorite scenes were whenever she and Batman were together on screen, both in and out of costume, as their back and forth dialogue are both really charming and funny. If you can't tell by now, I absolutely loved this film. It's an emotional and thrilling conclusion to a series that has changed the way modern movie-going audiences perceive superhero films. 5 out of 5 from me. It actually makes me quite sad that Warner Brothers is already planning on rebooting Batman yet again, just so that a new Batman can fit in with their Justice League movie. I'd rather have these three films be our generation's cinematic Batman for at least the next 10 to 15 years. But of course, in this world where the mighty dollar rules all, Warner Brothers, nor anyone else for that matter, can't pass up the opportunity for another Batman movie. So I created a short list of the top 3 things I'd like to see from this reboot Batman. Number 3. No more gravelly voice. By now, almost everyone is sick and tired of the voice, and hopefully WB has gotten the message by now. However, the dual voice can work. In Batman the Animated Series, Kevin Conroy was able to masterfully portray Bruce Wayne and Batman and make them sound like 2 separate individuals. I remember in one episode, Batman answered a call as Bruce Wayne, and as a kid, I was surprised to hear Bruce's voice coming out of Batman. With that said, we can hopefully get a Batman who doesn't make people laugh whenever he shouts, "Where is he?" or say things like, "This city is full of good people, willing to do good." Number 2. Better fight scenes. While the fighting choreography has improved over the years, I was never completely satisfied with Batman's fighting. In almost every live-action interpretation of the Batman, the actor always had to wear a bulky rubber suit that he can barely move in, and would simply move his arms left and right and perform a simple kick every now and then. In the comics, video games, and animated series, Batman would have a diverse plethora of moves and strategies as he jumps all over the place. This was pretty much shown in the recent Batman games, and I would really like to see something like that on the big screen. And finally, number 1. Less realism. We've now seen what Batman can be like in a hyper-realistic setting, so why not go a little in the opposite direction and have a colorful blend of fantasy and reality, similar to what Marvel is doing with their Avengers-related films. With the right kind of writing and talent, you can make the idea of Batman fighting a shift-shaping monster made of clay sound both plausible and exciting. Warner Brothers should definitely take a page from properties such as the aforementioned Batman video games and Batman the Animated Series, as I feel these to be the best interpretations of the Caped Crusader. Plus, with less realism, you are able to include more villains and heroes from the Batman mythos, which means more sequels and hopefully even this. Those would be the things I would like to see in the inevitable reboot. If there's something that you'd like to see changed, added, or removed in the new Batman series, let me know. I'm actually quite curious. So until next time, everybody, take care.